Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important updates that we got from the special military operation in Ukraine, and in the end of the video we're going to talk a bit about the Gaza and the Israeli Gaza offensive operation. First we're going to start with Kherson direction. As you can see, we got a lot of very interesting geolocations and updates. The Russians bombed this territory as never during the previous 24 hours, during the previous night. A lot of explosions, a lot of strikes, and as I understand, the main reason why the Russians are bombing this territory so heavy is possible upcoming another offensive operation from the Ukrainian side, another forcing the Dnieper River area operation. But yet the previous ones didn't brought the Ukrainians significant success, just few footholds that they managed to establish and that are currently under complete Russian control. Very interesting updates are coming from city of Kherson. The Russian sources, the sources published us the videos of results of strikes with the Iskander missile. On this video we see the consequences of the strike. Very difficult to understand, of course, the damage and what the Russians managed to achieve with this and why the Russians were attacking the central part of Kherson. But obviously the main reason of strike is the same as we saw in Berislav. The purpose is to destroy as much as possible Ukrainian forces of 35th, 36th, 37th and 38th Marine Brigades that are probably started the final preparation phase before the next wave of attack, before the next attempt of crossing the Dnieper River. For example, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the Ukrainian forces on the Russian side of the river. On this video we can see how the Ukrainians managed to cross the river Tsurupinska Konka, and they continued their developing of the foothold to the south in direction of Pitstepne, Pishanovka, and on this video we can see how the Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian forces along the railways. This is the area. There was a small basement, some underground facilities that the Ukrainians captured and created something like a shelter or something like this. Anyway, we see that the Ukrainians continue their offensive operation, continue their preparation of the trenches, and they will try to improve their positions more and more. For the first time, probably since the beginning of this month, we got some videos from the islands in Dnieper River. On this video, we can see how the Russians were bombing the Ukrainian positions with multi-launch rocket systems. I believe that Ukrainians also prepare and planning to attack the Russians from this area and for creation another foothold, or at least with the purpose to establish control over the residential area along these islands. So this may be, when talking about this direction, maybe this is the main purposes of Ukrainian forces. They don't have power for now to attack cities like Gola Pristin and Kardashinka. Before that they need to clear the islands and then they will be able to proceed. Furthermore, we got another Lancet strike against Ukrainian positions on the northern part of Kherson area. Nothing special, just a very interesting video. The Ukrainians tried to evacuate one tank, Ukrainian forces tried to evacuate another one. And at some moment, at some second, the Russians discovered that situation. As a result of Lancet strike, the Ukrainian tank was destroyed. The Russians were using the old generation model of Lancet. When talking about the Zaporizhia, South Donetsk direction, there are not so many updates from this area, so we will bypass them. Avdiivka also, we haven't received any geolocation. The only thing we got is that the Russians continue their offensive operation, and then there are very heavy clashes along the railways on the northern part of Avdiivka in the vicinity of the chemical plant. The weather, as I understand, is still bad. But as soon as the weather is getting better, the Russians will make more attempts to attack the chemical plant. As we discussed currently, this is the primary target for the Russians, and if the Russians are able to capture chemical plant, everybody understands that the Battle of Avdiivka is going to be ended exactly at this moment. So with the fall of chemical plant, the entire Avdiivka is going to fall, obviously. We got some updates and details from Bahmut area. The Ukrainian sources published the video how the Russian armored vehicles were making an attempt to counterattack the Ukrainian positions in the vicinity of Berhovka Reservoir. As you can see, according to this geolocation, I have updated the map because currently this territory either under Russian control or at least is in the gray zone. And on this video we can see how the Russians armored vehicles were attacking. One of the armored vehicles got on the minefield or was damaged by the anti-tank missile and was destroyed. Anyway, we see that the Russians control this territory. They have their temporary or long-term positions, and they continue establishing control and digging in deeper and preparing themselves before the further offensive operation in direction of the railways. If you remember, a few days ago there was another update from the same territory that the Russians managed to establish and develop some positions in this area. So as we can see, according to the information we have, the Russians have almost completed the preparation before the next very small and local attack in direction of the gray zone, with the purpose to maintain and to get closer to Bogdanovka. On the southern direction, we also got some updates in this area. The Russians published the video of FPV drone strike against the Ukrainian positions below the railway bridge in the vicinity of Avdiivka. This area used to be under Russian control, at least according to the previous versions of the map. And now I have updated this map because we have a real geolocation confirming that Ukrainians control this territory, control this bridge, and this But as I understand, this map shows the current situation in this area. So there are still some part of the railways under Russian control, but most of them, when talking about this part of front line, is under Ukrainian control. Very interesting updates are coming from the northern direction, from Tarskoye salient. This is another point of pressure that the Russians created. We have at least 2 geolocations from this area. First geolocation is located on the north of Dibrova and on the north of Tarskoye salient. On this video we can see how the Russian armored vehicle was attacking the Ukrainian positions with regular rounds, with regular machine gun, as I understand. That was established, that we can find on the armored vehicles. The important thing from this video is the geolocation of this video and the direction of Russian fire. So basically the Russians were attacking this territory. Let's mark it with polygon. The Russians were attacking this area, and according to the distance and the direction of bullets, the Russians were attacking somewhere from this area. So there are very high chances that this territory is under Russian control, this one. Furthermore, the Russians bombed and attacked the Ukrainian positions a little bit to the southwest from the first video. On this video we can see how the Russians were bombing this territory with all types of bombardments and rounds, and one of the Ukrainian armored vehicle was even destroyed. If we increase the number of updates from this territory, let's say since the beginning of October, we're going to see that the Russians have some focus on this territory. On the north of the first video we got another interesting video, how the Russian, using anti-tank missile, attacked the Ukrainian positions in front of Russian positions, and this video is also geolocated. And according to this video we can say that the Russians attacked the Ukrainian forces somewhere also from this forest. So this is another geolocation that confirms that probably the Russians have established control over this territory. And as I understand, before the next video I will update this map and I will add this polygon as the Russian controlled territory, because we at least have 2 geolocations that confirm the Russian presence in this area. When talking about Kupiansk front line, we haven't received anything during the previous night, just the Ukrainian HIMARS strike against the Russian positions in the vicinity of Novomykolskaya. Another HIMARS strike as a result of attack. Another Russian artillery system with ammo depot round was destroyed. And on the Kupiansk front line we don't have much updates, just another Lancet strike against the Ukrainian forces somewhere along the railways between Oskol and Kislovka-Kotlerovka front line. We see that a lot of armored vehicles, and one of the armored vehicle was destroyed, probably something like a Katse or T-64 tank were destroyed as a result of Lancet strikes. So as you can see, the front line is moving always. There are very heavy clashes, but at least during the previous 2 days we saw something like operational pause. We're gonna see what is going to happen today. Very interesting detail that I would like to discuss with you is that the United States published, the Western sources published the satellite picture of another airfield in Crimea, and from this angle very difficult to understand, but I must say that the Russians make a very interesting decision. They started drawing planes on the airfields, and when you take a look at the airfields from the satellite, you can have an imagine that these are real planes. So this is the Russian tactics, how to fool the NATO satellites in Ukraine. They're drawing like a lot of planes, and sometimes the Western countries think that these are real planes, and of course they attack fake targets. Now let's move to Israel and Gaza. And as you know, the previous night, the Israeli launched a ground operation in this area. During the previous day, there were a lot of bombardments of the city, a lot of explosions. That was probably the most difficult night, the most difficult day since the beginning of the Gaza conflict. And the Israelis reported about significant number of attacks that they made during the previous 24 hours, a lot of casualties, a lot of destroyed buildings. And the night, the previous night, from the 27th on the 28th of October, the Israeli forces launched an offensive operation. That operation was under cover and under protection of planes of United States of America. As we know, there are at least a few air carriers were arrived in this area, and they help the Israeli forces. They support them, and the main direction of attacks took place at least in three directions. The Israeli forces are attacking the Gaza in the central part, and the Israeli forces attack the Gaza from the southern part, from the, let's say, central part, bottom part, and the main direction of attack is taking place on the top part of Gaza. And as I understand, currently the most valuable and the most important target for Israeli forces is to establish control over this small city by the name of Beit Hanun, this one. And you know that as soon as the Israeli forces launched their offensive operation, as soon as they published update about starting the clashes, we know that there are a lot of strikes run all over the Muslim and Arabic countries. And after that, the Israeli authorities took a decision to remain the operation. They're saying that they're not starting a full-scale ground operation. They report about the beginning of just another phase of a ground operation, but not the full scale. And now the most important thing that everybody in the world talks just about one thing, that Gaza, that everything that located on the surface on Gaza is nothing. The most important problem, the most important barrier is the things and the tunnels that located below Gaza. And Israeli forces, of course, they're afraid of this. Everybody should be afraid of such clashes on the ground, because it's you can't predict the results of these battles. So that's why for Israeli forces currently the most important not even to start the ground operation. The most important for Israeli forces is to capture at least one city, one small town. They need to capture this very fast. They need to do this very fast, and then they need to publish a lot of videos, to make a media victory, to show the world, to show the Muslim countries that there is no chances to hold the territory, to hold the city. So that's why, as I understand, the Israeli forces chose for these purposes the city by the name of Beit Hanun, and they will try to capture this territory as fast as possible. They will try to clear it as fast as possible, and they will try to publish the videos and scenes from this territory. And the most important, they will get some first experience of clashes on the ground, and after that they will take a decision what to do next, to attack or maybe to use some gas, some chemical weapon, or any types of weapon for further offensive operation, because currently the situation is unknown. When talking about central direction, of course the main purpose of this attack, and as it's like a classical military science, to split the territory in two parts, and to split Gaza in many parts, and then to handle with every part separately. The main purpose of the southern attack was also to make reconnaissance in force, and of course to cut Gaza from the border with Egypt. And for these purposes, the Israeli forces were using even Navy operation. On this video we can see how Israeli forces launched the ship with Marines on board, with special forces Shayatet 13. It's elite forces. They tried to land in this area, but the Russian sources are saying, for example, and other sources are saying that there was an ambush, and Palestinian forces launched a counterattack, and as a result of that counterattack, the Israeli forces were forced to step back. So the main purpose in this area to cut the border, the situation with Egypt, to establish control, and to cut, of course, Gaza, from supports from Egypt. Obviously, there are a lot of underground facilities, and we understand that Gaza is connected with Egypt with underground tunnels, obviously. And so that's why by taking control the western part, at least maybe Israeli forces will have possibilities to start blowing up the underground tunnels. And this will, of course, obviously ease the common situation in this area. Today we are going to receive some reactions from Turkey, from Iran, but we know that Erdogan called himself, as we understand, the savior of all Muslim countries and all Muslims in the world, and he announced about striking every single Muslim country. We understand that power is not the thing that anybody can give you. Power is the thing that you're taking by yourself. So Erdogan took a decision to take the power in his hands, and currently he tried to collect and unite the Muslim countries around himself. So we'll see whether he's able to do this or not. United States of America continues sending the fleet in direction of Iran in the Persian Gulf, and obviously this is another step of escalation of the conflict. So we'll see what is going to be next. And that's it for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.